What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be discussing a fragrance that can be quite polarizing and can be also had for a very affordable price. 50 mLs are going to run you under $30 in most places from most discounters. And it's one that I wanted to get for a long time. Finally decided to get my hands on this original and the flanker. The original we're talking about is from Issey Miyake. This is Majeure. It's an interesting fragrance to say the least. Let's talk about it. Stay tuned. Now, moving into this scent, this one's a little on the interesting side because I've read places where it has a urinal cake smell in the opening. Yes, I said urinal cake. And the first time I smelled it, on paper, I didn't get that. On skin, I was like, wow, I see what people are talking about. This is kind of like, it reminds me, and this is going to, walk with me down my thought process here. This reminds me of the first time I drank a Heineken many, many years ago. I had to acquire the taste. I didn't like Heineken the first time I drank it. There and after, there was a stretch in my 20s when I almost specifically only drank Heineken because I loved the taste of Heineken. This doesn't remind me of the taste of Heineken, but reminds me of some things you need to acquire. You have to acquire a taste for these things. And this is one of those fragrances that I've noticed there's a lot of people that at first it's not for them and then they end up loving it. And that's kind of been the case for me. The first time I sprayed it on skin, didn't care for it. Now, every time I spray it on skin, it's on my hand right now. I love it. It's a more masculine, dry, and woody take on a similar style, but not exact, to Invictus. I do get a similarity to Invictus. It opens with grapefruit C notes. The tea kind of gives this herbaceous feel to it. There's a little bit of coumarin going on here, tonka bean basically, and a lot of woods. And it's mainly cashmeran that comes in. It's the main woody note. There's other amber woods and woody notes and stuff like that. But it's one of those fragrances that is a little strange at first. It's aquatic and citrus and herbal without all of that sweetness. It's kind of like Invictus if you made it more masculine, a little bit more earthy and woody, and took the sweetness away. Not completely, but the majority of the sweetness that makes Invictus a sweet aquatic. You would kind of end up with this. Sure, it's more on the synthetic side, but it's kind of a blue fragrance. It actually, I would categorize this as a blue fragrance. That's probably definitely one of the most unique blue fragrances I have ever smelled. This is a fragrance that you need to acquire a taste for. Your olfactory needs to enjoy the profile. And look, that's not necessarily going to be a guarantee. That first impression, if you don't like it, may continue as you give it more chances. But for me, I had a similar experience to a lot of people from what I understand with this fragrance, where at first it was kind of off-putting, strange, weird. How could anybody want to wear this? Urinal cake smell, but that goes away. I don't know what note creates that, if it's like Hedione tea and cashmeran mixing together with coumarin. I don't know what creates it, but there's no denying that the first time I smelled it on skin, I did get that. But I can assure you, if you give it more than just that one spray that one time on skin, and you spend enough time with it, at least through a few sprays in a few different situations, like over time, I think you'll end up really enjoying this one. Because if you like anything about Invictus, but maybe you don't like how sweet it is, for example, like maybe that's the reason you don't get nothing from the Invictus line because you don't like that sweet bubblegummy type of stuff. This is like if you were in your 20s and wore Invictus, once you get into your 30s and 40s, you rock this because it's reminiscent of it, but it's a more grown up version. If that makes sense to you guys. That's how it comes across to me on the scent profile. It's more about accords and a feeling and a vibe more so than specific notes. Like I said before, yeah, there's certain notes that jump out. You don't get a lot of mint. I do get the C notes. I get the grapefruit tart citrus up top. I get this herbaceous feel from the tea and a bunch of woods and a little bit of coumarin. It's pretty cut and dry. The notes do jump out at you, but the way they're blended, this makes for almost one of the more unique fragrances out there. As far as blue fragrances, it's definitely one of the more unique. In regards to performance, this stuff actually does very well. It's not weak, but it's not a beast either. I've yet to spend any time with Super Majeure d'Issey, the flanker that's got smoke accord and stuff like that, the darker essence to this scent profile from what I understand. From what I understand, that's supposed to be much stronger, but this is no slouch. This is a 7 to 8 hour fragrance on my skin, so you can technically categorize it in the 6 to 8 hour range in longevity, which, for those of you that watch this channel on a regular basis, you know that's the sweet spot for me. If I can fall somewhere in 6 to 8 hours, I am one happy camper. I don't need more. I'd prefer not to get less, but I'm good with getting more and I'm good with getting less. And I think this really suits the scent profile. The projection here is not too overwhelming at first, though it is pretty heavy in the first hour to hour and a half. It's a pretty strong fragrance in the opening, on into the second hour, and then it starts to settle down and sit a bit close to the skin with a moderate to mild sillage. It's not on the weaker side, it's not on the stronger side. It kind of falls right in between moderate to mild sillage to where it's not too close to the skin with your scent bubble. Your trail's not too weak, but it's also not long and strong with this big dense cloud following you where you get strong whiffs all day. You'll get life whiffs of the aroma here and there sporadically throughout its lifespan in that 6 to 8 hour range. And then it has the ability to grab somebody. It is more of an interesting aquatic fragrance because at its core, it's got sea notes in it. It's watery. It is an aquatic fragrance. It's a salty sea breeze type of fragrance, but not every salty sea breeze type of fragrance. Like you'd swear there's driftwood in here for the way it comes across with this aquatic dry wood vibe that it has. No driftwood. That could be in the woody notes is listed according to Fragrantica, so that could be the case, but the performance on this is above average pretty much across the board because with sillage, the moderate to mild, that falls to a little bit above average because a mild sillage is what you get with most weaker, fresh fragrances where it sits kind of close to the skin. The projection here is kind of beyond arm's reach for the first hour to hour and a half, then gets a bit closer, and then, like I said, the sillage, it's not weak, it's just not really strong. So it's kind of slightly above average all the way through in every category. Final thoughts on Le Majeure d'Issey from Issey Miyake. It was nice to finally get a new Issey Miyake fragrance in my collection. Not a new fragrance overall. This came out in 2017. It's nothing new, but it's new for me. It was a blind buy. It was an interesting fragrance from start and even until now that I do have a love and affinity for this scent profile, and I can appreciate the slight uniqueness because I'm a big fan of Invictus, and I know I keep relating it to that because I do get the vibe of Invictus, just not the more immature, playful side of what Invictus is. This is more mature. This is more of a grown man's take on that fresh aquatic type of scent profile, and I can see some not jiving with this, especially if you only give it that one try on skin that one time. It may be a complete turnoff for you because there's that looming chance that it's going to smell like a urinal cake in the opening. Because I did experience that the first time I sprayed it. That does change. That does go away. I don't smell that anymore when I spray this fragrance because this is a fresh spray on my hand, for example. I think it's solid. I don't think it's great. It's definitely better than good, and it kind of falls into very good. I'm going to go with a 7 out of 10 for Le Majeure d'Issey. It's a very good fragrance. I was very impressed with it. I was super disappointed the first time I sprayed it on skin. I was impressed and intrigued with my first impression in the haul video where I sprayed it on a test strip, but that didn't tell me the whole story, as the test strips normally don't tell the whole story. And once I got it on skin, I was like, oh wow, I might have to bury this fragrance in a review. That's not the case. That's absolutely not the case. It's actually quite the cheap gem. Well, that's my thoughts and feelings on Le Majeure d'Issey from Issey Miyake. And until next time, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. So I do appreciate all the feedback. And I love hearing from you guys. How many of you have tried this? Those of you that have tried it, the first time you sprayed it on skin, did it smell like a urinal cake to you? Because it was unmistakable. I had read about it smelling like that, so it was already in my mind when I went into it. And when I smelled it, I was like, wow, yeah, that definitely smells like I'm standing at a urinal. Okay, that's weird, you know. But it's oddly enough, it changed and became not special, but better than I anticipated after that point for sure. It got much, much better. And I don't just mean as it developed from that spray. I mean every time after that I've sprayed it, it's been a joy to wear. And like I said, slightly on the unique side for what it is actually, and for the genre it falls into. And until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on this by any chance and you give it a spray now, who knows? You might end up thanking me later. Have a good one, guys.